This is a full guide on how I would rank a stump grinding service in Portland, Oregon. We're going to go through 6 phases. So we're going to start off with the foundation phase, then we're going to move on to on page, and then we're also going to move on to local and doing some city silos. In the fourth phase, we're going to focus on the content and authority of the pages. Then in the fifth one, we're going to focus on entities. Then for the sixth and final phase, we're going to work on CRO or conversion rate optimization and maturity of the site. So for the first phase of how I would rank a stump grinder in Portland, Oregon, what I would do is first we're going to search the keyword. This is going to give us a lot of information of what is currently ranking. It's also going to tell us what it takes to currently rank. By just searching the term, we can get a lot of information of what we need to do on our site so that we can ensure that it ranks above our competitors. And so the first search I see is we've got a few of these almost exact match names on the Google Business Profile, which is great, which tells us that we also need to be doing something similar to our profile. When we scroll down a little bit, we can look at their services and we can see that they do a mixture of some other tree services. But in relation to us, since we're just currently going to rank a stump grinder, we're going to look at the keywords and the services that they are targeting so that we have a better understanding of what we need to be targeting. So we can see here that they've already started to use grinding and removal. So this is what I would consider a keyword variation. Why this is important is that you want to cover a lot of the keyword variations used in your service. Not only is this a signal to Google that, hey, we have all these keyword variations on our page, we are relational to the top level keyword. As an example for now, we'll just say stump grinding is our top level keyword. We have all of these keyword variations around that. This not only shows Google, hey, because we have all of these relational words to the top level keyword, we're about this keyword, it will also help us show in search when someone goes into Google and types in these keyword variations, right? Because not everyone searches the same. People have different views or interpretations of what the service is and what the service is called. So if we don't have these variations on our page and our competitors do, we may lose out on that traffic. So something to consider when you go to rank a page is that you also want to have the variations associated with your service. Now, if we go down a little bit further, we can also see that they have stump grinder, stump grinding and stump removal, stump grinding customer, tree grinding. That's a little bit separate than stump grinder, but we can see stump grind. They've got stump grinder capitalized and uncapitalized. Then they've got the verb tense. They've got grinding. They've got stump removal and then stump remover. That's another interesting variation of our top level keyword that we need to consider. What we're also going to do is we're going to scroll down here and we're going to start looking at the search results or the web pages that are currently ranking. And what I'm looking for is I want to see what their domain name is, right? I want to see if they have the keyword in their domain name. So if they have the top level keyword in their domain name, that makes it a little bit more competitive. It's not a huge thing, but it is something that we need to be cognizant of. We need to be aware of our current competition. What are they using for their domain name? Some other things I'm looking for is what do they put in their title tags and what are they putting in their meta descriptions? A third thing that I'm looking for here is what is Google bolding? Now, why is it important to look at what Google is bolding? It's because Google is bolding it for a reason. This shows us what we need to be using on our pages because those terms are relevant to the search query. All Google is trying to do all day is solve the user's search query by proxy that has these processes to which it finds these relevant terms that go with services. For this specific service in this area, it is highlighting or it is bolding these terms. So just what does this mean for us is that we need to use these terms on our page. Google thinks they're relevant. So we can see here we got stump grinding and removal. It's listing the city. We did search the city in our search terms, so that makes sense. Then we've also got the phone number is bolded. Then we've also got stump grinding services, stump grinding, and then we also have Portland, Oregon. We go scroll down here as well. We got elite tree service. So this is interesting. So something to notice to match is that this Google Business Profile's top level category is tree service. Then when we come down here, Google is bolding this term tree service again. And then also we can see in their domain name, they've got tree service. Let's see for this one, they've got tree care. For this one, chip away. And then this one is PDX stump grinding. Okay, so that's something to note. We've got an exact match. Now, most people will, when they see Yelp in the search results, most people will be intimidated or scared. Personally, this to me means it's a little bit of a lower competition. Now, the reason why I say that is because, yes, as a whole, Yelp has a ton of authority, but how authority will go down a web page or a website is that you have to think of it as like a tree branch. But when you think about it like a tree branch, you start from the start of the branch and then you go down and then you have all these other branches, right? So that's kind of how authority works as just an easy like one-to-one explanation. All of the authority is at the start of the branch. All of these pages at the end of the branch are going to have less and less authority, and also they're going to have less and less backlinks. So now if we were to look at the top level, if we were just go to yelp.com and look at how many backlinks they had at that top level domain, they're going to have probably millions. And we're not going to beat yelp.com. But because of how their site is set up and they have all of these directory folders, or basically it's just a category folder, right? So it would go yelp.com/tree services as an example. Because that is so far away from the homepage, it's losing a majority of the authority that the homepage has. Now, because Yelp is so powerful, it is still getting a ton of power to those leaves on the end of the branches. But what we can do is we can just simply send a press release. A really good press release is going to get you from like 300 to 350 backlinks and around maybe like that amount in referring domains as well. And then we can instantly beat them on backlinks just because our page has a press release towards it. Or maybe we do some citations, some local citations, and we start getting backlinks that way, or from social profiles, right? And so if we start building our backlinks and our authority to those pages, you can easily beat Yelp. Now let's scroll down a little bit further, see if there's any more. So very good stump grinding. So again, another exact match. Then we have OregonStumpGrinding.net. So that is a really exact match because it's also got the state in it. Now, one thing I want to touch on with this Oregon stump grinding, they are doing an exact match domain, right? So anybody that they're trying to service in Oregon, if they grind stumps, they are exactly targeting that search term. I recommend putting a keyword in your domain name, but I do not recommend putting the state or the area, like a geographic. So if you were to think, I wouldn't do PortlandStumpGrinding.net. And the reason of that is because when you put the city or the area in the domain name, when you go to expand, that domain name has that city in the name. So it's not going to rank in another city. It's going to be way more difficult to rank that. Now, what you can do is, let's say you have a brand name like Charles Stump Grinding. If you did Oregon Charles Stump Grinding, and then you went and bought a new domain name, for when you go to a different state. So like let's say you did California Charles stump grinding, then that would work. But typically you do not want to put the city or the state in the name, because then if you do go to expand, you're almost going to have to buy a new domain name. And then also the same thing goes for when you go to name your business, or when you go to put the name on your Google business profile, you don't want to put that state or that city in the name. Now, unless you're okay with staying in that city or that state, then absolutely do it. But when you go to expand, I would recommend getting a do business as and change it so that you can start ranking in that new city you're starting to serve. Now, so we've done this research. We looked a little bit over what is currently ranking, what are our competitors kind of slightly doing. So next, we're going to do a little bit of keyword research. This is a free tool by Google. You have to set up an account and get your credit card added, but after that, you can go to Google Ads and then you can go to their keyword planner. And here is where it's going to give us some of the search data or the amount of times keywords are searched for. Now, do not take this data straight to heart. This data is still a little bit off. This is more of like a big paintbrush. It's going to give us a big guideline, right? It's going to show us kind of like where to head into the right direction. And so our top level keyword of removal, what we can see is that Google is giving us these keyword ideas and we can see how much people are on them, like the top of the range, the bottom of the range. We can also see the monthly searches. And so some other keywords relational to this, we can see is tree stump removal, stump grinding near me, stump removal near me, stump grinding, tree stump removal near me. Now, when we go to do this research, we want to go through and see how are people searching, what words are they using, what combinations of words are they using, so that we have a better understanding of what we need to be targeting. You can include to broaden your search. I've already done that on this page. And so I've included, we've got stump removal, tree stump removal, stump grinding service, tree grinding service. And so adding all these additional terms, we're going to get more and more a broader search of the keywords that people are searching for, so we have a better idea of what keyword we want to target. Then another great and free tool by Google is Google Trends. So I put in stump removal, and what we can see here is the amount of times that a keyword is being searched. Now, what I want to caveat that with is this is relational. So what that means is that this isn't the whole amount of times the keyword is being searched. This is showing you how much it's being searched relational to itself of how much it was previously searched, right? So an easier way of explaining this is that let's say this says 18, right? But in reality, what it means is that it's been searched 100,000 times. Now, since this is relational to itself, when we go over here and it says it's 100, this actually means that it's been searched 1.5 million times. This is just to give like a representation of this information, is that it's not going to show you the exact amounts that this search term is being searched for. So then when we scroll down here, from our top level keyword, or this phrase that we put in up here at the top, stump removal, right? When we scroll down here, it's going to show us the top queries that are similar to what we put in, right? Google says right here, people who search for stump removal also search these queries. And so what we can do is we can start adding and taking away these queries, mix and matching them to get a better understanding of what keyword we would want to be targeting. And again, now that we've added more words to Google Trends, what this is doing is it's showing us how much these are searched for in relation to each other. This is not the total amount of times that it's being searched. This is telling us out of all of these, comparatively, what is being searched for more often. So when we come here and we look, we can see that stump removal and stump grinding are the two best performing search terms. Now, this doesn't mean that we would want to go and specifically target them, right? We're still in the research phase. We're still trying to understand this keyword, this service that people search for. Now, how I got these up here is when you go down here, you can click this three little dots and you can click add to comparison. Next, what I like to do is you can hit this little search button right here and it will go and search that keyword. Now, because I'm not in Portland, Oregon, I have to add Portland, Oregon to the search term so that Google knows, hey, he's looking for results there. So one big thing that I like to do is when we go to search these terms is I want to see what is popping up. If Google Business Profiles are popping up, these websites are popping up, this is great. This means that Google has classified this search term as a service-based search term. I'm just going to go down through all of these. I just want to see what is Google currently serving me so I have a better understanding of what does Google think that is relevant to these search terms. Because if Google starts feeding me news sources or if it starts feeding me Wikipedia articles, this may not be a service term I want to search with. So when we do stump removal, Portland, Oregon, and then we do stump removal, Beaverton, Oregon, we're seeing a little bit of the difference of who is currently ranking in these areas. So now we've got stump removal and we've got stump tree removal. And we can see a little bit of the search results have changed up a bit. We can see Portland Tree Co. So they've got the city and they also got the keyword tree in there. We can look at their services. So there we go, tree stump grinding. And again, we're just looking at these to get a better understanding of what is currently working and what do we need to consider doing on our profile. And what's interesting is that none of these have the phrasing. None of them have tree stump removal. So this might be something that we can easily add and actually show up for it because they're not putting it. Interesting. So that's something we can note down. Let's look at another profile just to see what they're doing. I personally wouldn't add all these emojis. I don't know why they're doing that. Also, something about services is that normally nobody can see these. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to tree stump Portland, Oregon. And so what we can see here is the Google business profiles aren't front and center like they were for the other searches. So to me, this would signal maybe this isn't a term I would want to target, but we still have to do a little bit more research. But like we said at the beginning, now we can start to see some of these bolded terms. And so looking at these bolded terms, a stump grinding company in Portland, Oregon, to me, this is signaling that Google thinks that this is a service, so it might be safe to target. Then we got a blog there. Then the Google business profiles are here at the bottom. So this may be because of all of my other search terms. Google may be trying to feed me this. So this is probably a keyword I wouldn't want to target. Now, if we go tree stump removal, we can see here, this is interesting. So they only have forest. They don't have the keyword in their name, which is something to note. Some other things we can see in the profiles, they got this nice long video. They've got a whole bunch of photos of the guys working. We can scroll down here a little bit. Something that I like to do also is Google is classifying these reviews. When we look at these reviews, we can see that we've got deadwood removal, street tree pruning, patio sweeping, we got full prune, shrub trimming, tree pruning, and what's interesting is there's no stump removal. But from these classifications, or this, Google is categorizing these, right? This is giving us more and more information of how Google will put certain terms or certain phrases or words and classify them. This gives us a better understanding of how Google thinks and what Google thinks of what is currently being displayed or shown in these reviews and how it relates or it satisfies users' search queries because it places these categorizations. Let's see if we can find one with the stump removal. So we can see how Google classifies this service, or from the review data, how it's saying stump removal. Notice how it's not saying stump grinding, stump grinder, tree stump removal, tree stump grinder. Notice how it's very specific to stump removal. This is important because it tells us how Google thinks of and classifies these terms. And then it's also interesting to see some other terms of what the people were saying about the service so that we have a better understanding of how to address the copy on the page so that we know what are their pain points. So what I like to do is when I get a new industry or a new business category I haven't served before, I will crawl like a couple hundred Google business profiles. I will take all of the review data and I will look at all of the negative reviews. From the negative reviews, I know exactly what pain points I need to address in my copy. From all this review data, I can also get a better understanding of how people talk about the service. When someone goes to write the review, they leave information of how they think about the service, and I can get a better understanding of what they would search and how I can target those search terms from all of this review data, because they're writing it in their own words. So they think about it in their own way. Now I have a better understanding of how they would think about going and searching in Google for that specific service. And so taking all this review data, not only do I get a better understanding of what they would search for, but I will also get a way better understanding of how Google thinks about the data. Okay, so now we're going to scroll down a little bit more. We're going to see mostly tree cares. So we got stump grinding again, another exact match. So not too many exact matches here. We got a .gov site, local tree care providers. And then we have treeservice.com. So you got some exact match. You got a little bit of keywords in there as well. So then we're going to move on to this next search term. So we searched stump removal near me, Portland, Oregon, because from the Google Trends, we saw that this was a search term. And what's interesting is because they have stump grinding Oregon in their name, Google only pulled up their profile, which is super interesting. Also, something to be aware about when you go up to set your Google Business profile and you go to list your links on any directories, any of your backlinks, anywhere externally from your site and internally, what you need to make sure is that if you have a www version of your URL, which is just www.yourdomain.com, okay? If you have that, then all of the links you place on your social profiles, all the links you post on your citations, your directory sites, anything external needs to have that www version in those citations, in those backlinks. If you put a non-www, right? If you just put :/ and then your domain.com, you're losing out on power from those backlinks because Google is going to crawl those and give that power to that non-www version of your site. So make sure whenever you go to list your URLs anywhere, you're staying true to that www or non-www version of your website, especially on your Google Business profile. If those are not matching, you're losing out. Okay, so now we are looking at stump grinding Portland, Oregon. And so we're starting to get Google Business profiles again, which is great. We can start looking at some of these names. So they've got the exact match domain, and they got tree removal, stump grinding, which is great. They got directions, verified address, which is highly recommended. We'll go to services, look what they got. They got stump grinder, stump grind, grinding, removal, remover. We'll go down here. That's great. They got their branding on that machine, and that's the first photo on the Google Business Profile machine. This is great. And they got a whole bunch of photos of them working. This is awesome. That's a good profile. So real quick, for this profile, I did an analysis. We looked over 1,300 Google Business profiles, and what we found is that if you list 15 services on your Google Business profile, and then you add a description to each of those services on your profile, you will beat close to 90% of your competition. Of those 1,300 Google Business profiles we looked at, that's all it took to beat 90% of them was to add 15 services with descriptions. Okay, so now that we have the keyword research a little bit out of the way, what we're going to do is we're now going to work on the foundation. So when I will first go to work with a client, what we'll do is I will first things first is I'm going to buy a press release. So what that's going to do is that's going to send over 300 backlinks, around 300 referring domains to the site and to the Google Business profile. Now, whenever you go to get a press release, make sure you embed your Google Business profile in the press releases if you want it to rank. Having those 300 referring domains, all that backlinks to not only your website, but to your Google Business profile is going to help you rank. It is a ranking factor. Now, so first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to send that press release. Now, when you go to send a press release, it could take a couple weeks to a month or two for all of that power to go to your website and to go to your Google Business profile. So while all of that is happening in the background, and this is also why this is one of the first things I want to do, is I want to send a press release right off the bat. What this is going to do is 9 times out of 10 with certain search results in certain areas and certain services, one press release is all it takes to beat your competition when it comes to the amount of referring domains or to the amount of backs that they have. When you go and look, you're going to see like maybe 10 to like 125 of those referring domains in certain services in certain areas. Now, if you go look at DUI Lawyer Los Angeles, you're not going to rank with one press release. That's going to take years, and that's going to take like 50 grand in backlinks. That is not something that is easily done with one press release. Same thing with like payday loans. But the other 9 times out of 10, you can get away with one good press release and you can easily beat out 90% of your competition. So first things first, we're just going to have a simple landing page set up. This is just going to be here so that when we go to send that press release, it has somewhere to link to. It's all going to come back to here. We're just going to have a simple landing page just set up. It's got your phone number. It's got the things you need for them to send a photo of the stump so you can quote them. We're going to have a little bit of a about section. Then down here, as an example, this is where you want to embed your Google Business profile. You got your little form fill out right here. And then you got your hours down here. And this is when we're going to start building out the schema as well. Now, this is just a visualization of what schema looks like. So we've got the local business schema. We've got the area we serve. And then we also have the address of the business. Schema is a language made by all of the major search engines. So you've got Google, you got Yahoo, you've got Bing, and then you also have Yandex. And this is a json-ld format I've used on my site. And what this does is this is specifically made by all of the largest search engines. It is a language that helps them better understand what your page is about. So simply right here, we're a local business for our type, the name of our business. We've got a little short description here. This is the URL. This is the page, homepage. We got our number, city, the areas we serve, our address, and then our opening hours, right? So this is just the beginning of building out all of this schema. So we've done all the keyword research. We've got our homepage set up. We optimized our Google Business profile. We put 15 services on there. When we've put descriptions on there. We've got a press release sent out, and we're just waiting for that to get searched for and indexed. And now, after all of that's done, we're going to move on to phase 2. So